Okay, YouTube, so today we are going to be pulling out this crank bearing from this Raptor 700 case. The engine here we're working on came off of that ATV right there, which developed a bad crank. As you can see right here, she doesn't really want to spin free. So I'm going to make a few videos showing how to reassemble this thing because I've already got it disassembled. So one of the things that you're going to need to do is to pull this crank bearing out in order to reinstall the new one. Now, a few tools you're going to need. You're going to need the Tusk case splitter, okay? And what you're going to need also is a socket, which is socket size, let's see here, socket size 30 millimeter, and I'll show you what that is and how it looks like after I pull it out, and also a 1/2 inch extension, and that is that piece right there, okay, and also a 1/2 inch extension. Now once you get all that in there, what you want to do is you want to make sure when you go ahead and start pulling on it, you have everything nice and leveled. So that's why I have these two screwdrivers here holding that socket in place, so that's level. So when it starts pulling the bearing, it doesn't pull it off at an angle because the socket's not perfectly flush. It's got a taper at the end. So that's how it's done. One other tool you're going to need is a little bit of heat. It always helps. So, and also one other thing I want to mention is when you start going forward and start pulling this bearing out, you want to not put too much pressure on it. If something starts you're yanking on it and it's like really hard to get it out, then it means or you're pulling on that bolt right here, something is wrong. Don't be afraid to start all over again, because if you go too hard on one end and you feel like it's not going correctly, then what's going to happen is you're going to break something, and that's the last thing you want to do because these cases are $700, so you don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead. Also, the other one thing I want to mention is make sure when you have this case on your workbench here, you have some kind of a rag or some kind of like me, an old t-shirt here down. So because your workbench is very rough surface sometimes, and the machine surface on this crankcase could cause some kind of a damage. So I always make sure that there's something here on the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and start yanking on this, and you will see it start coming out. Here we go. I hope you guys can see that very well. All right. So here we go. So I'm gonna add a little bit of heat. I already started pulling on it a little bit and started moving, so I know we're all good. We're gonna add a little bit of fluid, a little bit of heat here. All right, and we don't want to heat it up too much, just a little bit, just to relax everything and make sure everything's nice and warm. Okay, I'm just gonna heat this up a tad bit here. Not too much, but just enough to relax everything. As I said before, this is a very delicate procedure, and you do not want to be pulling and pushing on something too hard. Just gentle, a little bit at a time. There's no need to rush it because any little mistake could cost you $700 for 2 brand new cases plus whatever else you break. So with that heat, that's pretty good. All right, so here we go, and I'll show you the whole setup in a little bit here. So we start going like that, and as we're it's hot, and as we're turning this bolt here, I'm seeing the crank bearing coming out very easily. And maybe I should pull it this way here. Maybe I should do it like that, so you can see how easily it's coming out. Now that you guys can see. All right. Make sure I'm doing this the right way. And I just left the screwdrivers in there because it just keeps everything centered up. And you guys can see how easy. I'm not really putting much tension on this bolt here, and it's coming out pretty easily. Doesn't take much. If your cranking on it very hard, there's probably some kind of a problem, or you're not centered with your bearing, your puller, and that's you can have some problems there. You always want to make sure that everything's nice and level, including your bearing. Puller is sitting level, you know, like this crank splitter is sitting nice and level on the case. So as you can see, it's almost out, and almost no effort at all at this point. Very easy. Okay, it's almost out. I think that's it right there. Okay, yep, that's it. So it doesn't take much. Boom, and it falls right out. Alright, so let me go ahead and show you my setup here. Really easy, not much to it. Be careful, it is hot, and doing this with one hand here, well, is not that easy. Okay, so what, as I said earlier, you are going to be needing, okay, two things here. This is a number 30 millimeter socket, 1/2 inch, very simple, and a 1/2 inch extension. That's, I don't know, a couple of inches right there. Here's your bearing, nice and hot. And the way it works out is this just sits right there. And you see how I was telling you, it's not, this part of the socket is not very flush. So you might want, that's the reason why I had the screwdrivers there, keeping it level. So when it's being pulled, it doesn't go at an angle like this or like that. So it's nice and even. And then this went like this. And that went inside that hole right there. I'll show you. Right there. Easy as can be. Alright. So that's, and let me show you what bolts I used. What bolt holes I used. So I used this one here in the center, which is very close to the bearing. I used this one here at the top, because it has a lot of metal around it, and that's what I like, because if you're just using these ones right here, it could easily crack because you're putting a lot of tension on it. So I like to use nice thick, anywhere I can, you know, just use metal, a lot of metal around it. This one right here also has a lot of metal around it, and this one, well, I was running out of options, so this is the only one I could really use. I could use the side ones right here, but I didn't want to. So that's basically how it's done, and thank you for watching.